Hey, everybody. We are in front of the mic with the Beyond the Books podcast brought to you by accountingdepartment.com. I'm your host, Kevin Dry, and today we're joined by a very special guest, Dennis Najjar, co founder here at ADC, to shed some light on the seed that planted such a strong focus on work life balance here at ADC. Thank you so much for joining me today, Dennis. How are you doing today?
Kevin, my pleasure. I'm doing just great. Thank you.
All right, awesome. Yeah, thanks for coming on. And so I guess we typically start these off with kind of a tell us about yourself. And I think everybody here at ADC knows exactly who you are and everything, but go ahead and tell the world a little bit about yourself and how you kind of found yourself as one of the co-founders with such a great company.
Well, I've been an accountant my entire professional career. Started off in Big Eight public accounting. Felt the need to work more one-on-one with businesses, and after 4 or 5 years, left that and ended up in my own practice in the very late '80s before I got married. That turned into a career path that eventually led me to see the frustrations that was occurring with businesses trying to manage their own books at the advent of computers, personal computers, and then, ultimately QuickBooks and some of its competitors. And I just felt that there was a great opportunity to take it back and do what we should be doing as professionals, which is, owning that part of running a business that business owners aren't otherwise comfortable or qualified or dedicated to doing, and how it impacts, their survival. So I
Yeah.
started in the late '90s with a company called Balance Your Books that I started, and we still have that website up today. We've rebranded it under the ADC colors at some point many years ago, and eventually that path led me to meet Bill, and we hit it off really on the first phone call, both coming at it from a different perspective. I was the operations, the accountant, the process guy. He was the sales guy that just loved talking to people and kind of showing them where the potential could be. And we shared that with each other in our initial phone call. That led to a follow-up meeting, and well, I wouldn't say it was a shotgun wedding. We definitely got married pretty quick.
All
We
right.
were pretty much, yeah, pretty much at the end of that first day-long meeting. We agreed to start a new business called accountingdepartment.com and become partners. And the rest
Yeah.
is, as they say, history.
Awesome. Yeah, well, we've loved seeing that marriage just blossom over the last 20 years and adding to the ADC family and everything. So that's been exciting. Glad to be part of it. Now this episode is about work-life balance, and I know it's something that's very important to you as a co-owner and as a leader. So I guess how did that become a major priority of yours as a business owner and just as a person?
Well, I think a lot of it goes back to my upbringing. I was born and raised like most people in a middle class American family, a mom and a dad. Mom, during my era, mom stayed home and raised the kids. Dad went off to work. That's exactly what my father did. He was an accountant. He became a controller for a company in the early '70s while I was probably 10 or 12 or something, and dedicated a lot of his efforts towards helping that company. It was a small manufacturing company. When I got a little older, I went to college, and after graduating, went and worked for one of the big eight firms, and that was sort of one of those inflection points for me right there, because in the early '80s, frankly, the proportion was probably about 70% men, 30% women, in the kind of ranks of young accountants in the firm. But what I also noticed was that as women tried to move up the ranks, they were sort of forced to make a decision, career or family. And now I was a kind of a junior guy, so I just observed how, as you further up you got, there were fewer and fewer women who were in these manager and partner roles. And I did encounter a few situations that I guess planted something in my head about how unfair that sounded, because these women were just as talented as the men, except of the stereotypes of, being a mom or being a professional. Put that away in the back of my head, and I, kind of forgot about it. Number of years roll by. My dad's still working at this company. I started my practice, and just before I got married in 1989, we got news that he had developed cancer. And so, as I fact checking this morning with my wife, she reminded me that we got married, and the week we were on our honeymoon, he had his first cancer surgery, which was to remove one of his kidneys. And so it wasn't something they could save. And that was a setback. It was, obviously not being there is one thing, but more importantly, the company that he was working for didn't totally stand behind him after 15, almost 20 years at that point. He had somewhat of a recovery after that. 2 years later, he got another bout of cancer, and they had to remove part of one of his remaining other kidney, which effectively sidelined him. And rather than sort of allowing him to, sort of exit gracefully at the age of 62, a year older, I'm a year older than he was at this time, so this is near and dear to my heart. They basically showed him the door. And I was pretty shocked at how somebody who could dedicate such a long part of their life, their professional career for a company, was treated as a disposable. And so it burned another sort of memory in me. Now, I wasn't doing anything with these things. My practice was small. It was me and one or two people, and I was content with that. Um, at at 65, we celebrated his 65th birthday, so just about 2 years after he, I'll call it, retired, and then 2 weeks later he passed away.
Mm,
And so not much of a runway for retirement, if you will.
yeah,
And felt like he got shortchanged in all
yeah,
of these things. So family was very important to me. Watching my dad commit so much to this business and helping them prosper from the role he had. I mean, he wasn't, he had to do his piece, and then seeing how these other professionals were not given the same benefits that men were being afforded at the time. Obviously, a lot of that has changed for the positive. Uh, Really just sat in me. I mean, it wasn't
yeah,
something that I called out of me one day in accountingdepartment.com. I'll say it came naturally. It came
yeah,
naturally because watching a parent who was very professional, who showed loyalty, showed commitment, who showed, all of these characteristics of not only being a great father, but a great, business person in
yeah,
terms of what he was doing, um, said to me, yeah, there is another way. You could be ethical about how you work with people.
yeah,
And hence, when we started the business and started hiring people, I only knew how to be one way, which was the way I am, which is to
yeah.
respect people and give them opportunity. I started with nothing.
Hmm.
I mean, literally a pat on the back. We're a middle class family. There's not much going on.
Yeah,
I didn't have a silver spoon. I just started working hard and trying to build a path for myself.
yeah,
And I did that until accounting department came along. Thankfully, Bill, and I shouldn't say thankfully like it was a stroke of luck, but Bill's of the same cloth.
yeah,
Family is extremely important to him. I mean, he's always talking about family and get-togethers and what's he doing with the kids. They're no different than I do, but obviously that makes the marriage work even better because when you're in any relationship, when you're both on the same page, it makes where you're headed
yeah.
even more natural. You're not fighting what the other person's beliefs are that don't maybe line up with yours.
Hmm.
So, I mean, we've been extremely blessed. I do say one
Yeah.
thing every day: everything that I've accomplished is at the hand of God.
Hmm.
There's really nothing that I've done other than be the instrument of what He has led to me and through me and into the hands of everybody who is at accountingdepartment.com today.
Yeah, 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 great story. I mean, it's I think it's important to understand the why behind things and seeing a company that is doing it right and all of that and kind of how that was influenced and everything, kind of leaving the world better than you found it whenever you're in a position to do so. I think that's really awesome.
Yeah.
And as so I'm kind of at that stage as a parent where I have a 2-year-old, I have a second one on the way, so kind of in those, changing diapers phases and, things like that. One thing that I don't know, work-life balance, there are many examples in a lot of our Zoom rooms with internal employees, stuff that only we really see, but I'd love to share an
Mhm.
example of it. Lisa, our HR director, she shared I believe it was her 10-year anniversary or something like that last year, and she had mentioned never having to miss. She had, or no, she had sent out um, her youngest off to college, and she had mentioned never having to miss a single, you know, uh, event. If kid's sick, she can run, go pick them up. Any doctor's appointments, anything like that. She got to be there for everything and still have a career. And I know
Mhm.
that really spoke to me as a young parent of a young child that that's kind of what the future will look like with ADC is you're not going to have to pick and choose career or family. You can have both. So I always thought that was and that was something that happened when I had only been here maybe a few months. So that was really cool to see right off the bat that's a real life example of something that, and so many examples like that too. So I love seeing that.
When you take
Um,
all these pieces together, and so again, seeing these other professionals very early on in my career having to make those choices, seeing my dad be away at work late hours, Saturday, bringing things home, um, missing all those things that you just described.
mhm,
When I started my practice, I was right in the same town. And literally, as the summer walk challenge started because I would walk from my home, which is about 3/4 of a mile, to my office during the summer in the nice weather,
mhm,
to get up and about. And I didn't miss any of those things. Of course, my wife was a stay-at-home mom. That was the family career that we decided
yeah,
on. So she got to see all those things. She didn't miss anything, and I had the luxury, if you will, to be able to go and go to the school, which was down the street or around the corner or whatever else might be necessary.
yeah,
Don't forget the pets because they're equally
yeah,
our family members, and we do value them as much as we value our two-legged friends. We value our
yeah,
four-legged friends. But that,
exactly.
but that, all of that was like, this is how you treat people with respect.
Yeah,
One thing I'll always pride myself on, I kind of, I guess it'll border on bragging, but I guess it's a good thing to brag about. Is I don't
go
talk
for
out
it.
of both sides. I don't talk out of both sides of my mouth.
Yeah,
I put my money where my mouth is.
yeah,
And
yeah,
Bill is of the same cloth. We don't say do one thing and then we go do another thing. We stand hard and fast on knowing the difference between simple as right or wrong.
yeah.
Treating people with respect.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess what are some things you've noticed from employees, with the company that focuses so heavily on making sure its employees have a healthy work-life balance? I guess I don't know from everybody that's working here, have you seen any examples on your end of what it means to them?
Well, it definitely means peace of mind.
Yeah.
It definitely means that they're not going to feel uncomfortable
Hmm.
saying it. And I always use the example, the person that you're reporting to has kids just like you do,
Yeah.
and they're going to want to go and do those same activities we're suggesting that you don't let slip by. Because
Hmm.
once those young years are gone, they're gone. Like your,
Yeah.
your children never leave you, but those
Yeah.
early years are, I mean, I don't want to say they're the funnest, but they are fun.
Yeah.
And then once they grow up and they kind of, get to that teenage years, they get exposure to the outside world. It's a different kind of relationship.
Yeah.
They get to taste the outside world. They're not, sort of contained and controlled by you.
Hmm.
Basically just continuously reinforcing that it is a right and not a privilege to be able to do these things. Everybody is entitled to it.
Yeah. Yeah, and from a recruiting standpoint, same as employees, candidates. I'll say a couple things. The two things that I think people are looking for most, because I hear it in almost every single interview, are great work-life balance and remote. Remote's been a new thing that's happened over the last few years with the world, but we've been doing it for so long. We're really
Yep.
good at it. So,
Yep.
um, so I mean, that's, those are the two things people are looking for most, two things that we have. So it's definitely an easy selling point for me. And ADC is a employer of choice. I think people get excited the further they get into our interview process because they do get a little bit of a look into what our culture's like. It's an award-winning culture. We do, we have won the Inc. magazine's top places to work for the last 2 years,
Mhm.
2022 and 2023, and hope to keep that going. And I think our culture is going to make us, have that annually. It's definitely a pillar that we can stand on. And also, from my perspective, interviews are a two-way street. So of course, whenever a job seeker goes on an interview, they're trying to impress that company. But at the same time, that company better be trying to impress them too, because there are a lot of jobs out there
Yep.
and you definitely want to be that preferred place to work. So I think, being able to see that the work-life balance is truly practiced, preached, and, we walk the walk, it makes it a very easy selling point. I truly believe it. And I think that comes through to our candidates too. So I know that's been something whenever they hear that we have a good work-life balance, they want those examples and everything. So I get a little bit specific with how we achieve that. And we, through whether it be through flexible scheduling and, things of that nature, or just, basically it comes down to we're all human here, at all levels, and understand that, there is a, a life outside of work that's very important, and we all respect that.
Well, I like to say that we work hard, but we play equally as hard
We
because we
do.
definitely work hard here. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's a tough business trying to keep everybody happy. The clients. It is a service business, so service is about service,
Mhm.
and so there's a high standard that gets set. But we shouldn't diminish or drain our personal life over it. So work
Mhm.
hard, but play hard is really
Yeah,
what it comes down to. I'll tell you
definitely.
a quick two quick things about this whole work at home thing.
Mhm.
When we first started, my servers used to be in my office up in New Jersey before we put them in an
Okay.
outsourced IT company. It was only a couple of years before we outgrew what I had hobbled together. And I noticed we used to be able to see because it was RDP like we have now, and people would be signing off and signing on, and we could see all that happening. And not that we were monitoring it, but we could just see it because the servers were there. And what I noticed was a number of employees who would sign on at around 7:30 every morning, and then magically at 8 o'clock, there would be all these sign off messages popping up. And
Yep.
then around 8:30, there'd be sign on messages again. And I immediately knew what it was. They were
Cool.
getting off to get the kids to the bus or get the kids to the school, drive them or take them to the bus stop. And then it was rinse and repeat at 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock.
And so, right, exactly. And so to know that they felt that they could do that and not
Mhm.
have somebody questioning it was mission accomplished.
Yeah, definitely.
But the
Yeah, I
other
love
thing
that.
that happened, and it was not a goal by any stretch of the imagination, I actually believe people do a do do a hard work harder when they are treated right. So I didn't
Mm.
treat people right to get them to work harder. I treated
Yeah.
them right because that's what I believe, and I've seen the byproduct of people willing to go the extra mile, and that shows respect for each other. Not some ogre owner trying to squeeze everything they can out of an employee, but rather just saying, hey, you do your part, I do my part. And that's the way I
Yeah.
raised my kids. I raised my kids to be independent, to be good members of society, to be productive members of society, to be respectful members of society. Um, and I mean, that's all a parent can really ask for
Yeah.
is your children to grow up and be in that kind of a mindset. And I think the employees here have come to appreciate. It's a little awkward at first because most people don't. trust it.
Yeah.
They don't
Like,
trust
can I
it.
really go to this baseball game? Yeah, go.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Are they going to get in trouble? Is somebody going to say they slipped on their duties or whatever it might be? Um, yeah, they don't believe it at first, but then they don't just hear it from Bill and I. They actually begin to hear it from everybody else that they work with. And I don't think we ever say to them, play it up with the new people.
Yeah.
I think it just comes out naturally because they they just know that's the way it is. And so for
And
me,
it's
mission accomplished.
Yeah, yeah, and it's different. Like a lot of people who start here aren't coming from that same kind of work environment. So it's definitely a breath of fresh air. It's definitely how
Right.
things should be. So yeah, love what you and Bill have built here. And yeah, so did you have anything else that you'd like to add to this episode? I think we learned a
Uh,
lot.
yeah, it's a good number of stories for now.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah. Well, I think that's gonna wrap it up for episode 7 of the Beyond the Books podcast brought to you by accountingdepartment.com. Dennis, thanks so much. It's been a real pleasure having you on here and talking about ADC's strong emphasis on the work-life balance and how it came to be. Everybody, I'm Kevin Dry. This is Dennis Najjar, and we'll ADC you later.